At Princess Diana's funeral, King Charles made some choices that really shocked people and have stuck with his public image ever since. He came across as distant at times, and some of his actions felt pretty cold and calculated. It left a lot of folks questioning what he was thinking and wondering how those choices might have shaped his reputation down the line. Have you ever thought about what really went on during such a high-profile event? Well, we're about to dive into what went wrong for King Charles during one of the most widely covered funerals ever. First up is his lack of emotion. A lot of people felt he seemed detached and stoic while the rest of the world was mourning Diana, who was loved by so many. His calm demeanor really stood out against the deep sadness that filled the nation. You could see the public's grief alongside the raw feelings shown by Diana's family, which made Charles's restrained behavior seem even more striking. Critics felt that his stoicism came off as cold, making people wonder just how empathetic he really was during such a heartbreaking moment. Sure, royal protocol often calls for a certain level of formality, but this was a moment that really needed a more personal touch. The fact that King Charles couldn't show more vulnerability made it seem like he was out of touch with the huge wave of pain and emotion surrounding Diana's tragic passing. Next, there was the noticeable distance between King Charles and Princess Diana's family, especially the Spencers. While Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, was really involved and emotionally present throughout the funeral, King Charles seemed to keep a significant distance from them. This gap created some awkwardness since the Spencer family had been an important support system for her sons, William and Harry. People couldn't help but notice the lack of unity between the royal family and Diana's own family during such a crucial time. It's hard to imagine what that felt like for everyone involved. Adding to the complexity of the moment was the overwhelming media scrutiny, which only amplified the sense of disconnection. King Charles was often seen in the company of others from the royal family, yet he rarely interacted with the Spencers. Instead, it felt like he was more concerned with maintaining appearances than genuinely grieving for the loss of a beloved figure. Many onlookers remarked that it was troubling to see how separated he appeared while the world was mourning, which detracted from the communal aspect of grief that such gatherings often embody. But these missteps don't end there. As we explore the rest, we'll uncover more surprising choices that King Charles made during this incredibly public moment. For instance, his decision to drive himself to the funeral rather than take a royal car with the rest of the family raised eyebrows. Some interpreted this as an attempt to seem like a man of the people, but many felt it was misguided, especially in the context of the royal family's traditionally unified front during significant events. Moreover, the choice of music during the service, which included traditional hymns and classical pieces, was also a point of contention. While some appreciated the nod to formality, others believed it failed to capture the essence of Diana's vibrant and unconventional spirit. This mismatch added another layer of critique against Charles's perceived insensitivity to the moment's emotional depth. There's been a lot of talk about how King Charles really handled things after Princess Diana passed away. Gossip has it that whispers circulated about whether he truly understood the gravity of the occasion, and opinions varied wildly on his leadership during this pivotal moment in British history. Could his decisions today affect the royal family's standing for years to come? Stay tuned to find out how these moments shaped perceptions of him and whether they really matter in the grand scheme of things. Many people felt that he should have been more supportive during such a tough time, especially since it only made an already rocky relationship between the royal family and Diana's side worse. It left folks wondering if he truly grasped just how serious her loss was. Diana wasn't just another royal. She was a cultural phenomenon who crossed borders with her kindness and connection to people. She was known for her humanitarian work, and many were puzzled when King Charles seemed to overlook the huge amount of love and grief the public had for her at her funeral. Instead of recognizing that open outpouring of emotion, he came off as distant, as if the funeral was just a royal event rather than a global moment of heartbreak. Did he really get how much she meant to everyone? This lack of engagement didn't do him any favors and made people feel like he didn't understand her true legacy. When King Charles did finally talk about her, many felt his words lacked warmth. The public already knew about the ups and downs of their marriage, and his careful comments felt cold. Instead of using this moment to connect with the public and honor Diana's legacy, he chose a more reserved approach. People expected him to share more about who she was, especially as a mother and a humanitarian. but his remarks felt shallow. It made many feel like he missed a chance to show the world just how incredible she had been. Another big point of concern was how he interacted with his sons, William and Harry, during this time. His emotional distance from them added to the heartbreak and made it seem like he wasn't truly with them in their grief. It raised eyebrows and left many people feeling uneasy about how he was handling family matters when they most needed each other's support. At the funeral, there was this really powerful moment when two young boys were seen walking behind their mom's coffin. It hit everyone hard, but many noticed that King Charles seemed pretty distant during such a tough time for his kids. While people know that everyone grieves differently, a lot of folks felt that King Charles should have been there for his sons, especially in such a public setting. His lack of comfort for William and Harry was seen as a sign that he wasn't fully present as a dad or a husband who was also mourning. In the aftermath of Diana's passing, the media was frenzied with speculation about the state of the royal family. Some tabloids claimed that King Charles's behavior was a reflection of deeper issues within the royal household, suggesting that he might have been struggling with the immense pressure of his role at such a critical time. Others whispered about how his relationship with Diana had been evolving, raising the question of whether their final years together might have influenced his public response. Gossip has it that there were private conversations among close confidants who worried about the king's emotional well-being and how the royal family was managing its grief publicly versus privately. There was also talk of a broader impact. Diana's death had a seismic effect on the monarchy, compelling some to argue that it highlighted the need for the family to modernize its approach to public relations and personal loss. Memories of Diana lingered on, and public memorials sprang up across the nation, showcasing how deeply she had touched lives. Many felt a stirring to honor her legacy in their own lives, perhaps as a push for kindness and empathy in a world that often appears callous. King Charles had an opportunity to channel this collective grief into something positive for his family, yet his reluctance to connect openly left many feeling a void. The royal family's struggle to adapt to a changing world seemed symbolized during these moments, affecting the perception and trust of the public as they watched every move made by their king during such an intensely emotional period. It looked like sticking to royal traditions mattered more to him than tuning into what his sons really needed emotionally, which just pushed him further away from the sympathy of the public. Then there was this major miscalculation on his part about public reaction after Princess Diana's death. The royal family had always been about tradition, but Diana's passing really changed things. It showed that there was a growing gap between the royals and everyday people. While the public was grieving hard, King Charles's response felt pretty slow and inadequate. It seemed like he didn't fully understand the huge impact Diana had on so many lives. People didn't just see her loss as a family issue. It resonated worldwide. His initial hesitance to connect with how everyone was feeling only fueled complaints about the monarchy. This huge mistake made it clear that the distance between the royals and the people was widening, and it would take years to even start fixing it. And then there were rumors about how King Charles was barely involved in planning Diana's funeral. With it being such a big deal, you'd think that, as her ex-husband and the father of her kids, he would want to be much more hands-on to make sure everything honored her properly. But reports suggested that he left most of the planning to others, especially the Spencer family. Some folks saw this as another signal that King Charles wasn't fully committed to giving Diana the tribute she deserved. It just added fuel to the idea that he was more about sticking to royal rules, rather than focusing on honoring her legacy in a meaningful way. What do you think about that? After Princess Diana passed away, everyone wanted to remember her as the caring and lively person she was. But many people felt that King Charles didn't step up during this tough time, which led to a lot of criticism. They thought he didn't take enough responsibility for honoring her memory. When the news of Diana's death spread, it shocked everyone. People were looking at the royal family for some guidance or acknowledgement of the tragedy, but King Charles and the rest of the family took their time responding. This delay really upset the public, especially during a moment when the nation was grieving. The silence from the royals felt like indifference to many, as if King Charles didn't grasp how serious the situation was. Adding to the complexity of the situation were the media's relentless speculations about his role and the dynamics within the royal family. Some sources even whispered about tensions between King Charles and his sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, suggesting that their relationship suffered as the fallout from the family's reaction to Diana's death. Gossip has it that during family gatherings in the aftermath, they found it hard to share their mutual grief, as each had their own way of processing loss. Many felt that the monarchy could have done more to forge a connection with the people during this time of mourning. If King Charles had taken a more proactive approach, perhaps he could have embodied the unity that the public needed. Instead, as years passed, the perception remained that he was more committed to preserving an image of stoicism rather than embracing vulnerability. The public's desire for a more relatable royal figure grew stronger, as they yearned for someone who could empathize and share in their pain, especially given the global outpouring of love for Diana. Ultimately, this incident didn't just impact King Charles's relationship with the public, it also opened up deeper conversations about the monarchy's relevance in contemporary society. The royal family was being called to adapt and evolve, to be more in tune with the emotional currents of their subjects, something that many believed King Charles failed to grasp during those crucial moments. Although he eventually spoke on the matter, the late response made it seem like he wasn't providing the compassion and support that everyone needed. This moment didn't just leave a bad taste in people's mouths. It's something that still pops up when they think about King Charles. Many felt that during a time of collective grief, a spontaneous and heartfelt address would have further solidified his role as a caring leader. Yet his delay signified a disconnect that resonated deeply with the public. Another issue that stirred up controversy was the rumored disagreements between King Charles and the Spencer family about how to honor Diana's memory. There were talks that King Charles wasn't fully on board with certain plans for her memorial service, which created tension among those involved. Even though we don't have all the details, knowing there was friction made a difficult situation even tougher. Many saw this as King Charles struggling to put past issues aside in order to unite in remembering Diana. Allegedly, there were whispered accusations between aides about the right approach to the memorial, and gossip has it that some members of the Spencer family felt sidelined, believing their suggestions held more emotional weight than the royal family's. The disagreements made it seem like he cared more about sticking to royal traditions rather than meeting the emotional needs of the moment. This disconnect only added to the growing disappointment from the public about how he handled everything. While the Spencer family made sure to include personal and heartfelt elements in the funeral, like readings from Diana's favorite pieces and music she loved, it felt like King Charles missed the mark on bringing those personal touches to the event. Why do you think he didn't embrace the chance to connect on a more personal level during such an important time? It just made people feel more dissatisfaction with how things went down. In a notable contrast, family members shared intimate anecdotes about their experiences with Diana, presenting a vivid picture of her character that resonated with many. Yet King Charles seemed to adhere strictly to his royal persona. His choices during this critical event suggested he was more concerned about the establishment than the emotional nuance that was so desperately needed. King Charles got a lot of flack for being too formal and distant during a time that really needed a personal touch. People felt he didn't do enough to honor Princess Diana in a way that felt real and heartfelt. It was like he missed a chance to show a more personal side of their relationship, even if things weren't always smooth between them. The public was looking for a glimpse of the real King Charles, the man who had been married to Diana and the father of their kids, instead of just the royal figure. His strict adherence to formality seemed to push him further away from the emotional weight of the moment, and that left many feeling like he let Diana down, along with all her fans. Observers noted that a more candid reflection on their shared experiences could have bridged the gap between his royal duties and the sentiments of the public. Things got even more complicated with rumors about King Charles having some disagreements with Queen Elizabeth over how the funeral should be done. Even if the details weren't completely clear, it seemed like there were some real tensions between them regarding key parts of the service. There were even whispers that the Queen, known for her strong sense of family, had expressed her desire for a more inclusive and personal tribute that honored Diana's spirit, rather than merely her status as a royal. This speculation only fueled public interest and raised eyebrows about the internal dynamics of the monarchy during such a tender time, suggesting that even within the walls of Buckingham Palace there was uncertainty about how to navigate the complex legacy of Princess Diana. This added another layer of drama to an already emotional situation. making people wonder if the royal family was struggling to handle Diana's death and how the public felt about it. Everyone hoped to see a united front from the monarchy during such a sad time, but instead, they heard chatter about disagreements and disunity, which only made folks more skeptical about how the royals were managing everything. It wasn't great for King Charles's reputation at all. On top of that, King Charles faced criticism for not connecting with the crowds of mourners who gathered to pay their respects to Princess Diana before her funeral. Hundreds of thousands lined the streets, leaving flowers and tributes in her memory. But he seemed distant, hardly stepping out to acknowledge the people whose lives she had touched. Many thought this was a lost chance, not just to honor Diana, but also to mend his relationship with the public, which had taken a big hit following her death. Why didn't he reach out? What could he have gained by showing up in a more genuine way? King Charles had a real chance to connect with the public and show some empathy after Princess Diana's passing. But it feels like he missed the mark. Instead of stepping forward to unite with those who were grieving, he held back, which made people feel like he just didn't get how heavy the moment was. During the funeral procession, it was hard to ignore how far he stayed from the Spencer family. While Earl Spencer walked closely behind Diana's coffin, King Charles kept a noticeable distance, and folks took that as a sign of a deeper emotional divide between the two families. Many thought that he should have walked alongside the Spencers to honor Diana and show respect for her family, but his separation seemed to show the distance that's always been there. This just added to the disappointment people felt toward him, as they believed he didn't fully honor Diana's memory, a woman loved by so many. Then there's the whole issue of how he recognized or didn't recognize Diana's charitable work during the funeral. Diana was famous for her humanitarian efforts. She really put a spotlight on causes that got ignored by the rest of the royal family, like helping landmine victims and spreading awareness about AIDS. She became a symbol of kindness and compassion around the world. But many felt that King Charles didn't give enough credit to her legacy when he spoke. As the days unfolded after her death, stories began to circulate about potential rivalries within the royal family itself. Gossip has it that not only was there tension between Charles and the Spencer family, but there were also whispers of disagreements among his own family members regarding how to navigate the public's reaction to Diana's passing. Some believed that certain members of the royal family wanted to adopt a more visible and hands-on approach during this period of mourning, while others felt that a reserved demeanor was more appropriate for the monarchy. This internal rift seemed to add yet another layer of complexity to an already tense situation. Furthermore, the media frenzy that ensued painted a picture of a monarchy in crisis, with every move scrutinized and interpreted as a reflection of the royal family's grief, or lack thereof. Commentators pointed out that this was an opportunity for the institution to evolve and engage more meaningfully with the public at large. But instead, it felt as though they were retreating into their shells. Many questioned whether the monarchy could remain relevant in a rapidly changing world, especially when faced with such a monumental public outpouring of grief for someone who had temporarily shifted the perception of royalty through her compassion and warmth. Amid this turmoil, there were also tributes pouring in from around the globe, showcasing Diana's impact as a humanitarian icon, leaving Charles to grapple with how to respond to an international audience that held immense affection for his late ex-wife. Many observers believed that King Charles needed to rise to the occasion, both to honor Diana's legacy and to reconnect with a public that was longing for leadership during a time of emotional strife. These challenges served as both a test of his character and an opportunity to redefine the monarchy's relationship with the people it was meant to serve. His comments felt more about her role in the royal family than her incredible impact on society. That upset a lot of her supporters, who believed her charity work was one of the most important things about her. By brushing over that part of her life, it felt like he was diminishing the very qualities that endeared her to millions. Lastly, there were whispers about how King Charles downplayed Diana's contributions to the royal family. People recognized her personal struggles with the monarchy, but they also knew she played a significant role during her time as a royal. Isn't it interesting how perceptions shape the way we remember someone's life? It makes you wonder how history will view these moments. Princess Diana played a huge part in changing how people saw the royal family, making them feel more approachable and relatable. She had this incredible knack for connecting with everyday folks, something you didn't see much from the royals before her. This connection helped close the gap between the monarchy and the public, making everyone feel a bit closer to the crown. But when King Charles spoke at Diana's funeral, his comments mostly highlighted her formal role as a princess and as a mother to the future kings. Many felt he missed the mark by not really recognizing her true impact on the monarchy. This left some of her fans feeling ignored, and it did seem like yet another way Charles failed to honor her legacy properly. And speaking of the funeral, there were 15 major stumbles that King Charles made that people just can't shake off. What do you think? Were these errors too big to forgive, or do you think the pressure that comes with royal life led to them? I'd really like to hear your views in the comments. How do you think this affected how the public sees King Charles now? If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up, share it with friends who might enjoy it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more fun content. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.